one? I think I'll be alright.
Check.
Yep, that's the one. So I got to put lately too.
Check. Testing microphones.
Welcome to the August 4th, 2020 committee meeting for the Columbia Borough School District. We welcome all those who are here and all those who are watching on the video. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item of business would be roll call, please.
Sandy Duncan,
Present.
Devin Fisher,
Here.
Kathy Hohenautum,
Here.
Kate Kaiser,
Here.
Cole Knighton, Robert Mashanya,
Here.
Lauren Von Stetten,
Here.
Rebecca Young,
Here.
Charles Leader.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. The first main item of business this evening would be Property Committee, and Mrs. Kaiser is the chair, and I would defer to her. Mrs. Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. So first is a discussion regarding public use of district facilities. And you guys should all have a copy of the policy on use of facilities. I know there were some questions that you had about this that I know it was kind of like a while ago that we decided to put on the committee meeting for tonight so that we could discuss it. I guess the question was, there were some public comments made. I don't want to use the word complaining, but they were upset that they couldn't just go in and use our facilities for basketball or, whatever. So, and you had said to him, I believe, that you were going to look into this. Right, Robert? Like you had.
Yeah, I simply said I would pass it on to the rest of the board, and he was able to, if he wanted to, apply for the use of facilities request.
Yeah, and I feel like this has come up maybe last year as well. So I think it's a good opportunity to just discuss it and go over the policy so that we know in the future moving forward. I think just for me reading through this, it sounds great for like a community member to be able to go in and use the facilities, right? It sounds great, but like we can't just leave the doors to the school open. And the whole policy goes over all of that, like insurance, sending a request in for facility use, and there are safety reasons for that. Lots of different reasons. So I don't know if you want to touch any more on that. I had a question like, all facilities shall be rented at the published hourly rate. If someone had said, like, say this guy was coming home for the weekend and he and some friends wanted to use the basketball courts. And so they were planning this, right? So a month out, they send in a facility use request form. Would they have to pay like an hourly rate? Like, how would that work? Is that even a possibility?
Basically, everything's online at this point, and it's available through our to the website, facilities request form. If the group, based on board policy, if there is no insurance, they can get no further. They would have to verbally send a request to me, which I would send to the board. Do you want to allow someone to use your facilities without insurance? My assumption would be you'd put that through district solicitor, and historically he's always come back with that normally the district does not want to be on the hook for any liability. If there's no insurance, it's now district liability. Would be your call to do, but at this point they'd have to do a written request over and above. They could not use the electronic format. The electronic format, the nice thing with it, every request that's made, if you're an outside organization, you put in your insurance, it automatically pops up when your insurance runs out. So if your insurance is good for a year, if you go to request it a year, 13 months out, it would come back and say you can't make a request until you renew your insurance, so that the district always has a new policy on file. Of course, that's not the same for internal organizations like booster clubs, all of that. They are allowed to go ahead and ask for permission.
What about like if there is like a liability waiver? Or is that like getting into muddy water with legality and everything? Like, can they say like, sign a waiver saying I would hold the school district liable if like I played a basketball and break my ankle, or?
That would have to be a board approved, you know, I would recommend strongly that you got the solicitor to weigh in on that as to where the liability lies.
What, can I have a question, Kate? I mean, well, you probably don't know, and maybe Tom does. What's the cost of a $500,000 policy like that? What, does anybody know?
That was one thing I wanted to look into and
Yeah, I don't know.
as well.
I have no clue. I know that when we checked on it before, there was a difference between if you add it to your homeowners as opposed to you just call and say, I want a liability policy for X.
Yeah, if you
But-
put it on as a rider, you might get cheaper, right?
I don't know the exact price, but I do want to say that it's affordable. It's not an outrageous price that a group couldn't afford to pay.
If they could pool their money if there was a group.
Right.
Yeah, I'd just like to know the number, that's all.
If you'd like, I could get a hold of Phil Martin tomorrow, and then when he gets me a number, I could get it out to the board.
Yeah, I think that'd be
You want
good. If
500
Kate's
or a
okay
mil-
with that.
500 or $1 million?
It's usually,
Well, it
we're
says
500,000 here, right, for the school district?
For both, for each, yeah.
Mhm. And
I think that'd be
I
good to
believe the
know.
borough is $1 million. Isn't that correct?
I
$1
don't know.
million.
It'd be just be
But-
good to get a ballpark figure so we know what we're talking about.
And usually, when they file for facility use request forms, they have their insurance lined up already. And usually the cost of that insurance is aligned with the 501c3 or a group of an organization. So that organization pays for insurance, and that insurance coverage, such as my church, would be something like coverage of so much a month, and I'm almost certain we're with Phil Martin and Lutz Insurance, and I don't think it's more than so much a month. That's not really unaffordable, but $100, $200 a month to cover for whatever the church needs, insurances. But usually, it's usually a group that has a 501c3 or has coverage, and when they file, they know exactly that insurance would cover their use of any facility outside of their organization.
So I don't know if anyone else has any comments or anything. We're just kind of going over this because of this person from the community who, had reached out and was upset. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with this. We have the policy that we can always refer to, and it's just for the safety of our students and our facility and to keep us all safe that this is the process that we have to go through. It's not.
I do have one question. So I believe the comment that Robert brought to our attention, it also referenced the Sunday morning men's basketball league, which is what we discussed
Previous.
earlier this year or late last year, I forget when. And then the second part of it was looking to use the high school as a backup facility and as a rain date. Now, I don't know if that group applied to use the facility and was turned down by administration
I
before it
believe
came to
they
the
use
board,
the Nook now.
that they are using the Nook.
I don't think they applied this year.
Well, I
So-
think if you look at it from a real technical point of view, they still have an application out there in limbo because we did not deny their request. We tabled it until such time as they could provide proof of insurance. So technically, it's still sitting out there. If they can provide proof of insurance, it can come off the table for action.
So I guess what my question is, we tabled it, but then was any contact made to whoever sent in the request to let them know that's what happened? So that this isn't just an ongoing issue with them feeling as though the board's just not letting them use
For
the
the Sunday
facility.
morning basketball, yes, a letter was sent saying that the board is requiring that you have
And waiting for
insurance
proof of
as by
insurance.
policy. As soon
Okay.
as you can produce insurance, it will go back to the board for approval.
Okay, thank you.
So they're not using the facility at all now, maybe, and I think at that time, this subject came up, mainly because they were upset over the fact that this group could not use the facility without having insurance and having to come back to the board over that fact.
I'm not entirely sure it was due to their lack of insurance. I think there was a mix-up a couple of years back, and they just assumed that they would not be allowed to use the property after that point. That's what it sounded like to me.
Then, that's a misperception on their part, because it had come before the board at a board meeting and it was duly tabled, and that should be reflected in the minutes of whatever month that was. So it's not that they didn't fill out a form and they would presume that because there was follow-up on it.
That's all I have on.
And just
that.
a caution, because one of the concerns that when I read some of the things that were on that, a caution to the comments from the standpoint of school facilities, because some school districts partner. I know Elizabethtown School District partners with Gears. So for a community member may be able to walk into a gym because Gears has it open for use as a basketball court. A normal everyday person just walking that lives in E-Town wants to walk in and play basketball would assume the district is open. I know there's other districts that partner with the Y, the exact same thing. It's open for basketball between this time and this time. It's not the district that has it open, and you can't just, because one comment was, where I live, I can just walk in and play basketball anytime on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday, whatever. If they partner with an outside organization, that may be what it is. And we've reached out over the years. I know I've reached out as recently as 3 or 4 years ago to the Lancaster YM and asked, and they had talked about potentially partnering, but then with things that happened, they now are not able to. But that's the other issue, that you walk into a school doesn't mean the school's running it. It could mean that another organization is.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was kind of curious about that. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments on that? Okay. So the other thing under property is discussion of the DAC for leasing to the STS.
I had asked that this be put on the agenda because at our last public meeting, you made reference to STS having offices here. And I didn't recall us ever as a board approving the lease. So are they in? And that's something we offer gratis. Okay.
That's it for property, unless Mr. Strickler, you have anything to add? Okay.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Kaiser. Appreciate that. Our other item of business would be the Finance Committee, and I would turn to Ms. Honnold for that information.
The first two items mentioned here are both things that will normally appear on our agenda, and that's the financial reports and check disbursements. Mr. Ramsey, did you want to speak to those two items at all this month?
No, I don't really
It's
have a comment.
Just a
at this
pretty
time.
routine thing.
Just a routine, yes, correct. And for a couple months, we didn't have a grant report. Our plan is to have a grant report this month and each month continuing with our new grant coordinator, so.
Okay, good. Then I had also asked for an opportunity for the board to discuss potential impact of COVID-19 on our budget, what those costs might look like and funding stream. So I see Mr. Ramsey put this report together. I would ask him to speak to that.
Absolutely, thank you. Everybody should have a handout. It's two-sided. We've been, from the get-go, we've been trying to detail, clearly articulate, and put on our system in a Google Doc at the request of the superintendent, and pretty much details everything that we spent so far. I try to separate it between sanitation and disinfectant and personal protective equipment and other items, as well as the technology and our funding streams. So if you look at the disinfectant and sanitation, you'll see some miscellaneous items in the beginning, but the biggest is the wipe kits and the refills. This is going to be utilized by our staff in their rooms should there be a need to disinfect surfaces. We were actually able to partner with other districts. This was through the IU catalog discount. I must compliment the IU. They stepped up and provided a discount program, a catalog discount program for us, which helped us to buy supplies at a discounted rate, but also that comply with the procurement requirements of the federal government based on the federal purchasing because we're utilizing federal dollars to buy a lot of these things. So what you see there is the wipe kits and the refills. Those are basically dry. They're just the wipes and the actual container. And you'll see above it that we have disinfectant and cleaner, the liquid that goes into it. So this is going to have a shelf life that's going to be pretty long. And that way they won't dry up like some of the already mixed wipes that you buy at the stores do. We have them, we received them, so there's no delay in that area at all. The other thing is I'd like to call your attention to is the 2,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. That's coming from the county grant. I think I did report on this previously, but if I haven't, we have been working with the county. I was on the task force to work with them to help provide. They had some funds that they could give to school districts, and they were also willing to purchase some of those items on our behalf. So you'll see zero cost there because we don't know at this point how much they cost, but they are providing us 2,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. We also received a financial donation you'll see on the back, as well as hand sanitizers, a case of 24 of 17-ounce bottles. They were donated by Lancaster, Mass. So we were very appreciative of that. They're actually doing that for each of the 16 school districts. I received them at Elanco. We received them here as well, and they're actually dropping them off at each district. So we do appreciate that generous gift. When you look at the sanitation disinfectant, it comes out to just over $72,000. Again, we feel pretty comfortable that we have a lot of this in stock that we can get through the year, depending on what happens, whether we're on site or we have to go to all virtual. We feel we're pretty confident. Talking to our director of facilities, that we feel pretty well stocked to get through the majority of the school year. So again, we'll kind of see what happens this year, and then we'll kind of look at next year in that area. But when you look at personal protective equipment, a lot of this was, and I and other, the plexiglass kits. If you've been in the school district offices, you'll see plexiglass hanging from the ceiling. We bought that, we got those, as well as we got desk mounted ones as well. We also got freestanding ones that are included on the desk mount. They're actually freestanding. They have a little cutout on the bottom so that you can pass things between. We're utilizing those for the speech therapists as well as the school psychs. If they're doing testing, they can pass things underneath the slot to the student that's on the other side as a further protective measure.
Will we be looking at getting anything like that for the classrooms, for the teachers' desks?
I was going to ask the same question.
We'll be working with their teachers, and some of them, of course, that do have your desks are constantly standing space, they're not coming to do it, we can if they need.
Yeah.
Some of the teachers instead of asking them to desk, I've asked them to take a side house, instead of like this is the one that has a hump that has the throat, if they're one that's solid all the way down, that they can possibly two students together at a table, and separate students from each other at the table if they want to show something or whatever. Mike Church looking at all of the different problems to see what would work for everything is different than what they want. Because these do work well for psychologists and we'd be looking at different types for that. We try different manufacturers to see what we look at. Most of it is. So we're qualified. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there could be like an opportunity, like in a science classroom, for an experiment to have, a plexiglass shield there so kids could see and all that, sort of come up and look. And so, yeah, as Mr. Strickler said, we are following up on an individual basis based on requests and needs, and Mike Shirk's been doing that. The one thing I wanted to call your attention to, the bathroom hand towel dispensers. We have an arrangement with Hilliard through the IU Kellogg discount. Now, of course, we have to buy the paper towels, but that's all incorporated within the buildings and grounds budget. But they're providing the bathroom hand towel dispensers free of charge. So each of our bathrooms, our student bathrooms, instead of having a hand dryer, they're going to have a paper towel dispenser so that they can actually, wash their hands with soap and water and then dry them and not have the hands, wet and then trying to fan them to hand dry them. So we're going to outfit each one of those. We have them. I'm not sure, Mr. Strickler, are they all in yet or are they still being installed? So they have all installed. Okay. In addition to that, we're getting 20 district-wide, the water bottle fillers. We're actually replacing the water fountains. These are actually, we pull the water fountains out and we're going to insert these right in. They go in very nicely based on the dimensions of the current structure. And we're going to replace all the water fountains with those water bottle fillers so that we don't have to worry about kids and trying to clean the fountain itself. This is just going to be a water bottle filler that we're going to have there for the students. And we're going to have in each of the areas where the water fountains are. You'll see down later on that we're also asking and we're receiving donations. There's some, and Mr. Strickler may want to kind of follow up on that, but he's talked with several different organizations that are willing to provide water bottles for students, and you can kind of share what those water bottles will look like.
What we're getting is several organizations are asking if they'd like to donate water bottles to districts, and they put their insignia on or their logo on. Of course, as long as it's a kid-friendly logo, we don't really have an issue. I know we were just contacted by a couple local businesses. They sell just normal demo things, but it's not, if we always tell them, as long as it's not something that is minor, can't use, we can accept it. So, our only stipulation has been that for elementary use, we want something with a top, that it's not unscrew it and they forget to put the top back on and then knock it over and water all over the room. For the high school, we're looking at a water bottle with kind of but other than that, we'll take everything that we can possibly get, because we all know that we're using it every day. it's going to get lost, obviously they will not return, but you have an extra couple of things.
Couple other things I'd like to just point out. When you look halfway down that section, you'll see the mass disposable. Initially, when we first were closed back in March, and not sure how the return was going to be, we tried to get whatever we can. So we went and through Hilliard, our catalog discount provider, and we got 4,000 masks. So we had them from the start. They were disposable. Figured that a lot of people would eventually have their own mask that they would bring in, but we would have these masks, say a student forgot their mask, or if there's a visitor or somebody, or if the mask they had got dirty or got food on or whatever, we could give them a disposable mask. Since then, you'll see that we've had a lot of people step up and provide donations of masks. The first one, well, of course, the county, they're part of their grant. We initially asked, weren't sure if we were going to get them, but we are 3,000 masks. The Hershey Company, we donated. We got 8,000 masks. And we just got an email today from PSBA, and they have 500 cloth masks for each school district if you would like it. So we sent an email and requested our share of those masks. In addition, we initially asked for 500 face shields from the county, which we're going to get the shields for those that potentially don't want to wear a mask. We also, through, I can't think of the company on top of my head, Home Field, provided a sample of a mask, and they're $2, and they're actually very comfortable. And we're actually looking to get 2,000 of those face shields, so that we have them on hand for students and or staff should they choose to want to wear a face shield instead of a mask, or wear both. We also, through the county, we were asking for 100 gowns for any staff member, nurse, special needs teacher, or any other teacher that would want any type of gown. We also are looking to get a backpack sprayer for each school so that we can spray down, especially at Park with the playground equipment. Again, have on there the disinfectant cleaner. We did get a lot of it, probably should have moved it up, but we do have the cleaner for basically our spray bottles and those types of things for staff that they would need. And of course, we did get some thermometers should we need to take temperatures or those types of things. Any questions on those two sections before I move into technology? On the flip side, where you're going to see a lot of the cost is the technology. We purchased 150 Zoom licenses so that the teachers could basically do the online classroom with the students. That's $7,500. We also are purchasing, and this is for a 12-month cost. This is for 150 hotspots. We're looking at about just under $90,000. LOTC's also looking at some alternatives to that down the road in regards to lighting up the whole district so that we would have a filtered internet system for all of our students. But he's actually looking and working with Hempfield and some other districts to get an RFP together to see what that cost would be. But in the meantime, we worked with AT&T based on their coverage area and their price. So that's $89,000, almost $90,000. We put the cost in there so it's earmarked, increasing our bandwidth. We're currently at 3 gigs, but we do have a price. If we needed to, we could go to 5 gigs for $1,200 a month. So that'd be $14,400. The next item is it's called the Little SIS. That's actually for the Google Classroom to really, it integrates the Zoom and the Google for the teachers and the class instruction. The other thing that we also purchased was we call it the hybrid classroom. This would be all the cameras, the speakers, the wireless mics. And we're looking at, it's about $800 a classroom, and it's $86,400. We have the headset for students. We're looking at surge protectors for every classroom. One of the things that LOTC came up with was the touchless scanning for students. That may be true. Yes.
Yeah, I went to back up there.
Yeah.
We bought 80 headsets for students. How how are we going to determine which 80 students use those or who cleans those? Are those for, when I first looked at it, I thought, I wonder if they're for staff, but then you did say they're for students. So
Correct.
how are we going to determine who uses them and cleans them and all that good stuff?
Yeah. My understanding is for the special education students. Correct. Right. Yeah.
Right.
I have a question also. You have 150 Zoom licenses. Is that because we know, like, that's the number of students that are going to be using it, or is just, you still don't know how many?
For
It's
teachers.
for the
For the
teachers.
teachers, just for the
Correct.
teachers.
It's for
Okay.
teachers and administrators and district staff.
Okay,
Correct. It's for the staff members.
for the staff members?
Yes.
And then, so we don't need it, okay, so.
No, that
We
would
still
be-
don't know how many students or anything like that, right?
Correct, yeah, that's
Okay.
something that with the surveys, they're due back, this is today, my understanding, tomorrow they're due back. This is actually for the individual that initiates the Zoom license, so that's the teachers and staff. The hotspots is an estimate of those students that don't have reliable internet at home. Yeah, that's for the hotspots are for the students and the Zooms are for the staff. Just ironically, they're the same number. Yeah, you got it. It'll go up, correct, yeah. And we would get those pretty quickly as well. It's really hard to talk with these masks on. Jeez. And then my glasses are fogging up. All right, hopefully I can see. But back on the truancy, one of the things that Lotsie, our tech director, for those students that would be coming in late, being able to have a scanner right there with their ID, basically scanning in, everything gets uploaded into PowerSchool, so there's really no touch or really between, writing something, writing down or whatever. It can all be done electronically, and it's touchless. And really all that is $35 for a scanner for each school. So Lotsie is able to set that up. The earbuds, Mr. Strickler did talk about that. We're hoping to get donations, but we have that on add to the back to school list, but I think that's down one row, so it should be up one more row for that piece there for the add to the back to school list. The e-hall pass, this is a system that we're putting in place so that when students go to the bathroom or go to get a drink or whatever, they can sign out, and that way we kind of have an idea how many students are in a bathroom, how many students are in the hallway, as well as depending on the bathroom usage, we can get in there and clean that bathroom depending on the volume of students that we're using the bathroom. I don't know if there's anything you want to share about that or, okay. The last thing that we're looking at is an online, it's an online HR application. It's an onboarding opportunity. We don't have to, with this system, we do have our online system through CSIU for HR and payroll, but we still do a lot of things with paper. So Donna has to really meet with each new employee, employees that want to go on leave, those types of things. She has to actually physically meet with them. Looking at having these federal dollars, we looked into through PowerSchool, and we're looking at partnering with Elanco and Columbia to get a discounted rate. And what this provides us, it'll provide us with everything will be electronic from currently, if you're familiar with PA Educator, we use those for getting applications. PowerSchool also has an online application process where teachers can sign up. We can do actual interviews via the system. We can actually do reference checks via the system, all electronically. We can then do everything through the process. We can then have the successful candidate complete all the necessary paperwork and can do it all electronically and remotely and don't have to to come to see an individual to go through that process. So that's another option that we're looking to hopefully purchase through these funds.
I see the total cost to this point. And the other question that comes to my mind now is, of that figure, of the 338,000 figure, approximately how much of that, and I know this is just off the top of your head, so I wouldn't hold you to the penny. So approximately how much of that would you say are one-time costs as opposed to some of these things that have to be renewable?
I would say of the 338,000, I would say pretty much, I would say probably 275,000 of it.
Is one time?
No, I'm sorry, flip it around.
Okay,
It's
yeah, I was,
reoccurring
my real quick estimate would have been about 1/3 of it was one-time costs.
Yeah, because because when
rest
you
are gonna
think about the wipes and all those things, we're gonna have to replenish those. Things that I'm looking at as, really it's in the personal protective equipment, that's the non-reoccurring, the plexiglass, potentially. When you look at the water bottle filler, the face shields, those types of things, those to me are really more of the one time, the 47,000. And then there is some potentially on the backside when you look at the 86. So you're probably looking, I would say probably, I guess I'll change that to probably about, I would say 1/3, 2/3, yeah. Like you
Because
said.
the HR application, is that going to be a renewable figure, or is that,
Yeah, the bulk
once
of
it's
it's the
purchased,
first
that's
year,
it?
but there is a smaller renewal fee
Okay.
each year. Then after that, a lot of that, there's about $7,500 in startup fees to get it going, and then after that, it's an annual cost. But I would agree with you. I would say 1/3, 2/3. You're right on.
Okay.
I have a question. When it comes to some of the items that are one-time costs and are generally permanent, like the plexiglass kits and stuff like that, would it be possible that once the coronavirus crisis is over, that we could put them into storage for future use so
Yes.
that further down the line, if we have another pandemic or something like that, that we wouldn't have to dish out a lot of these expenses again?
Correct. I would agree. Yes, I would say yes to that. The only thing would be like on some of the technology, depending on how many or whatever, it could break or whatever. But especially for the plexiglass and those types of things, really, I feel that we will be able to store those if we need to. I mean, or
Well,
we might
if-
keep them up.
Yeah, if you think like H1N1, like
Yep.
12 years ago, not even, and then coronavirus today, we could be looking, 5-10 years down the line at a similar situation. You never know in today's world, and it'd be nice to be somewhat prepared for that.
Just a quick kind of follow-up statement to that. I'm sitting here thinking about all this and thinking how this really kind of, like the pandemic, COVID-19 really pushed schools into the 21st century with tech, with, if anyone was behind, like we all have to be up to speed now, right? And I think a lot of these costs are going to be reoccurring
Right.
yearly from now
Correct.
on. And think like life's just going to be different now. And yeah, we definitely need to save the plexiglass.
Right. And following up on, Ms. Honal's question as well, that's why it's nice to see the balance at the bottom. Should, more than likely this will extend into next year, and having that balance will help us get through those reoccurring costs, especially the following year.
Right, those first two grants that are shown there, do they come with any restrictions as to how they're used with COVID expenses, obviously, but?
Yeah, the first one, the PCCD COVID-19 grant, that's funneled through the state. That's more geared towards the disinfectant, the online learning, those types of things. And that's what we're using that for. That restriction is we have to spend all that by the end of October. So that's the one that has a shorter deadline. but really not too many restrictions. We can pretty much use it wherever we need to. I think one of the really gearing it around online, emotional, mental health type of things, as well as the safety, which would be the cleaning products and those types of things. So, and both of these are really the same way. So ESSER, that's the ones coming directly to us via the federal government to the state. That's the one that extends into 21, 22. And that has very similar restrictions, if you will, if you call them restrictions, but those restrictions are pretty wide open. We could use them for, anything that deals with the mental health, anything that deals with online learning, anything that deals with the safety, cleanliness, as well as with that one even is to further ensure the ESSA program. So.
Okay, then, since you said it would apply to the safety and cleanliness, if for example, just pulling out an idea, just if you said, well, we really don't want to pay our early elementary teachers a salary and have them cleaning restrooms when you have liability issues if they're not in the classroom. If we said, well, what if we hired somebody as a temp worker to clean the primary restrooms? Could that then be covered by that grant money?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say you would want to go with the ESSER because that extends beyond the October 30th deadline.
Okay.
Yep. But yes, you could pay for additional cleaning staff. Absolutely. Any other questions on that?
I know we touched a little bit on, there would be follow-up if teachers wanted or requested plexiglass for their desks. Will they have the ability to request any other items that they may feel they need for their classrooms that can come out of this funding?
I think that's a tricky discussion for the faculty and also for the principals. As to what's needed. Every lesson is different. From the standpoint of kindergarten, first grade, different than 11th and 12th.
Sure.
The science lab, science experiments, I know the science teachers in high school are really discussing how to do it. And even science teachers at middle and elementary, how do we do it? At least we all can learn, we can't do learning anymore, so this is our way to put plexiglass in between. I know every week author admin meetings legally, and every week somebody will talk about, I don't know how to do this, and my church will say, there is plexiglass available for that type of thing. If you're interested, I can get some brochures out and you can see what's working. So I do have to take them going back. So yes, absolutely, we did not by any means take care of it.
Okay, so then they will have the opportunity to request other items that they may need for their classrooms.
I have a question about the hybrid classroom. And I might have just misunderstood from our conversations last night. I'm curious why additional cameras are needed. Are the assigned laptops and such insufficient for that purpose? Or I'm just confused about the need for additional cameras.
These are specifically for the virtual classroom that the teachers like with our laptops, it's a camera, it's straight on you and I.
Right.
This is 120 degree of the front of the room, so that the student, if the teacher goes over and works on the smart board, they can see the work on the smart board. The teacher doesn't have to stand there and constantly move. It's dedicated. There's one dedicated to each classroom. So it's not picked up and moved somewhere else. It's strictly for that classroom. It's virtual. The other thing that can be used that, as you know, teachers last year, and I'm sure this year will do the same thing, they did videos for their Google Classroom or their Schoology or whatever they decided to do. This would be sort of a hands-free movement because a lot of the feedback that we received from teachers in the June 2nd that Dr. McGuff was talking about last night was they would prefer being able to use their classroom and not their kitchen table. So could we allow them to do that? This will allow them to come in. They could do math problems on their smart board. They could do any type of whatever they wanted to do in the smart board. they could set a demonstration up. This would be completely hands-free and not having to move the camera or even a portable camera around to pick it up. I'm not sure. It's not a classroom camera as much as it is a computer camera. I'm not sure exactly how the tech people are doing it, but it's set up so that it's 120 degrees of the front of the room so that it would carry the teacher walking back and forth, teacher on the smart board, as the teacher moves back and forth to talk to students. It's not intended in any way, shape, or form to follow the teacher all through the room. So if the teacher's talking and walks through the room, it has a microphone, a wireless microphone the teacher can just put on them for the day, and it carries them. Then, of course, we talked about last night, it also has the button. Teacher can automatically turn it off at any point that they want to.
So it is a stationary device.
Yes. It is not,
And it's more free than the laptop.
correct. And it's not intended, though, to be a camera for a room, because it does not cover the entire room. It strictly covers the teaching. Again, what we consider teaching. If teacher moves to a different part to continue talking or to show somebody, you can hear the voice, but you're not going to be able to see the teacher. It doesn't follow them.
And that would protect some of that would protect students from being visible on camera.
Correct.
This is a living document. We basically update this daily depending on what we're purchasing. So if whenever you'd like to see it again, just let me know and I can gladly bring it with updates and keep you posted on everything that's going on.
Maybe as we go through the first few months of the school year, it might be nice for this to be just a standard item, not on the public board meeting so much as on the committee
Sounds good.
meeting,
Yep.
that we can review it and ask
Absolutely.
questions.
That's good. Grant.
And one thing, if I may, Ms. Honal, just as Keith started at the beginning of this, that the district's really we're looking at grants, and if we have any of this left over, or if there's another round of CARES Act money, with LOTC working with other districts, we're looking today, and I think that he can get this hopefully in half, and with grants, we can pay for most of it, but any of this that's left, about $400,000 what they're calling Light Up Columbia. Every student in the district would have internet access through the district. It's antennas that Lotzi has to explain the technicalities, but somehow he would do what he needs to do. They'd be installed throughout the borough or on school district property, whatever that may be. And it would cover any student anywhere in the borough on our district devices. They would be inside our firewall. So we would get E-rate for it because we would be controlling what they would have access to. So it would be a positive for all of us. Students would have internet access. We wouldn't have to pay for the hotspots. Also, they would be controlled as to what they can see. That's the concern we all have. Our hotspots don't control anything. So anybody in the family could go anywhere because they have internet service. So one of the things I know Lotzi is really pushing for, right now it's at least an 8 to 9 month installation period because they're backed up. But that's something that we'd probably be talking about the end of this school year and try and possibly to schedule it during next summer.
Are there any more questions or any further discussion on the reopening expenditure report? Seeing none, then I know Mrs. Kaiser had asked us to discuss the fair funding formula. Did you have questions about that? Did you want Mr. Ramsey to speak to that first, or?
Let me just start off with how I even got here. I'm gonna pass this out to you guys so you can, is there one for me? Did you print one for me as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. This just is like an example. Being new as a school board director and not having children in the school district yet, I had never heard of fair funding before. I was contacted by a school board member of Pottstown School District. She was looking on Columbia's website at the list of all the school board directors, and she saw my picture, and her and I have known each other since we were 6 years old, so she asked if she could give me a call to talk to me about this. Her and members all over Pennsylvania are all working together as like a kind of a grassroots effort to put pressure on legislators to actually make the fair funding fair. The simplest way she explained it to me is, and Keith, if you want to add to this when I'm done, basically say Pennsylvania has $6 billion last year to give to the 500 school districts. Next year, they have $7 billion. Only that $1 billion, the new money, gets through fair funding. So it really still isn't fair. So really, this is just, I'm just like, she gave me this opportunity. I want to extend it to everyone here. They actually did a Zoom meeting tonight, like a live workshop, and I can send you all the link to, she said it'll be posted on their Facebook page to view at a later time. So you can go on and watch it, get more information, and then I can send all of your emails or whoever's interested to her, and she will add you to the mailing list. They have a Zoom meeting every Tuesday night. And again, it's just kind of like you gather information and then you put pressure on legislators, and different people are working on like different things. I unfortunately and I even said tonight, I'm like, I'm going to miss the meeting tonight. And she said, well, you can watch it later. I was like, oh, that's good. So did you?
Yeah, I was just thinking, putting pressure on legislators. I was told at a certain point that the fair funding formula is actually in the court system right now, and I think the state Supreme Court is supposed to be ruling on it in the near future, but I might be mistaken. I think that's specifically related to the new money versus old money. So, I mean, I'd love to put pressure on legislators to do it, but the question is, how much power do they have right now?
Well, and again, it's just doing whatever you can do. I know PSBA is also like working on this as well. This is just like, it really helped me understand looking at this, like we're underfunded. I think this might be last year's, do you know, Keith? So I think we are
1920, so it was last year.
Yeah, so I think we're at 19,000 inequity. But even if you look at Hempfield, there's inequity with Hempfield, which I think is interesting. I think it's like $38 a student for Hempfield, where if it was distributed evenly. And also, like, she was explaining to me how during this time with the Black Lives Matter movement, it really, when you look at the demographics of the school districts and who has more money and who has less money, and like it all kind of is very interesting. So Lauren, I know that you are, have really educated yourself lately on that. I thought of you when she was talking to me about this. Anyway, does anyone have any questions on, you can Google fair funding too. I was doing that and just kind of educating myself on it.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for this. I appreciate you speaking on it tonight.
Yeah, I was really excited because this is like, I think something that like why we're all interested in being school board directors, right? Is like stuff like this.
Something that will make a difference.
Yeah,
right.
To make a difference. Yeah. All right. So is everyone okay if I give your emails to her to connect you to the Zoom? Yes. Okay. And if you don't mind, the other thing that she is a Pennsylvania School Board liaison. And so she was telling me a little bit about that too. And apparently Columbia does not have a PSBA liaison. So you get like special emails. Do we? I don't think we do.
I didn't hear.
You get like specific emails and updates, and there's a meeting that you can go to with them that's much more detailed than the general emails they send out. So I was thinking maybe that's something we could put on the agenda if anyone's interested in being appointed as the liaison. I would be interested in it, but I don't need to take on the responsibility if someone else wants to do it.
Do we know what the dedicated amount of time and specific
No.
commitments would be?
I think it's just you receive the emails, you read the information. You can go to this virtual meeting once a week that maybe is like 30 minutes to an hour long. And then you just report to the board at the, yeah, just any updates or anything. I don't know what day of the week that is. Tuesdays is for the fair funding. Yeah. Yeah. I just thought it was something that I hadn't known about that she had shared with me, and I thought was also.
Well, if we get somebody volunteers, did we just tell your friend? I mean, how do you,
No,
what's the
I
process?
think we would,
Maybe.
Oh, we have to
Autumn.
register.
we
okay.
contact PSBA and let them
All right.
know. Yeah. So,
I mean, if we're asking for opinions, if you're interested in doing it, I would be fine with you taking that on.
okay.
I
And no one
don't know
else
how
is.
this, I guess it would
I'd
go
be
on the
interested if
agenda.
you don't want to, but if
Okay.
you want
It
to, I have absolutely no problem.
All right. Okay, great. Can we put that on the agenda for, oh, that's it. I will not be here I will be away during the August.
You can still be appointed.
Okay.
That's usually when it
Yeah.
happens, when you're not here.
Okay, all right, perfect. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me, but I'll send her your emails.
Thank you, Kate.
I have nothing else from the Finance Committee unless anybody has anything they want to bring up from the floor at this time. Okay, then that concludes Finance.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Honow. Thank you, Kate, for your info. That would be the last item of business for this evening. We will, did somebody say something? Keith, you're just breathing, okay. We will have an exec meeting for personnel at the conclusion of this meeting, and if there aren't any other comments or objections, then I would consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you. I got one.